Breaking news. Prince William has just dropped a public statement so powerful that it left Prime Minister Keir Starmer literally speechless in the middle of Parliament. The future king didn't shout. He didn't have to. His calm, razor-sharp 11 words have ignited a constitutional firestorm, one that could shake the very foundation of the British government in days. And now, the truth that Labour tried to bury for 3 long weeks is erupting across the nation in what's already being called the biggest political meltdown since Brexit. If you want to see how this ends, hit subscribe right now, because what unfolds in the next 72 hours could redefine British politics for the next 10 years. Let's go back to where it all started. Just over a week ago, Starmer proudly unveiled what he described as the National Housing Initiative, an ambitious plan to build 300,000 affordable homes by seizing and used land through compulsory purchase orders.
Sounds noble, right?
But buried deep on page 47 of the 200-page proposal was a detail so shocking that royal advisors reportedly went pale. The plan approved the immediate seizure of 14 historic sites, several of them with direct links to the royal family. But one place in particular sent shockwaves through Kensington Palace, a vast stretch of Duchy of Cornwall farmland in Devon, land that has been under royal stewardship for more than 700 years. Starmer wasn't asking for permission, he was taking it. But Prince William was not about to keep quiet. 3 days later, at 9:15 a.m., on what was supposed to be a routine visit to a Manchester homeless shelter, the Prince of Wales shattered 50 years of royal neutrality. Speaking before a small assemblage of volunteers and families, he gave what people close to the situation now refer to as the most politically charged statement from a royal since Queen Elizabeth's 1992 Annus Horribilis speech. His words were calm, but chilling. When government policy prioritizes speed over heritage, we don't just lose land, we lose ourselves. The room fell silent. Gasps rippled through the audience. One woman in the front row even broke down in tears. But William wasn't finished. With quiet authority, he added, "True leadership protects what generations before us built, not destroys it for short-term political gain." He never mentioned Starmer by name, never attacked Labour directly, but everyone in Britain knew exactly who he meant. Within minutes, the clip, William versus Starmer, shot to the top of global trends. A line had been drawn in the sand. The future king had just declared war on the Prime Minister. The political backlash was immediate and brutal. Within 2 hours, Rishi Sunak hailed William's profound wisdom and demanded a parliamentary debate on the housing plan. Nigel Farage declared that William had spoken for millions of Britons who were tired of seeing their heritage destroyed by political elites. Even the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey, usually circumspect on royal matters, carefully concurred that the prince had raised legitimate concerns. Meanwhile, Starmer was completely isolated. His own MPs were in a panic. And then came Prime Minister's questions, the moment that would change everything. As Starmer stood at the dispatch box, Rishi Sunak rose with a smirk that could cut glass. "Will the Prime Minister confirm," Sunak asked, "that he intends to seize royal land without consultation, and does he believe the future king has no right to defend Britain's heritage?" The chamber held its breath. Starmer flushed red. He gripped the box, his knuckles whitening. And then he made the fatal mistake that may destroy his career. "The Prince of Wales," Starmer snapped, "does not set housing policy in this country. Parliament does. And if he or anyone in that family thinks they can veto democratically elected decisions, then they're living in a fantasy world that ended centuries ago." The chamber erupted into chaos. The Conservative MPs began shouting in outrage. Labour MPs sat frozen in disbelief. Even the Speaker looked taken aback. Keir Starmer had just publicly humiliated the future king, live on national television. But what happened next proved just how badly he had miscalculated. The fallout was immediate and brutal. As the echo of Starmer's words faded across the Commons, senior Labour MPs looked like they'd seen a car crash in slow motion. Harriet Harman, a party veteran who has served under every Labour leader since Neil Kinnock, was caught on camera lowering her head into her hands in disbelief. Yvette Cooper, the former Home Secretary, shut her eyes and mouthed what lip readers later confirmed, "Oh my God, no." Even David Lammy, the foreign secretary and one of Starmer's closest allies, was seen shaking his head in shock. These weren't his critics. These were his inner circle. And in that moment, they knew it. Keir Starmer had just committed political suicide. Within 90 minutes, Downing Street scrambled to contain the disaster. Starmer's office issued what it called a clarification, but everyone knew it was pure damage control. It added, "The Prime Minister has the utmost respect for the Prince of Wales and the royal family." His comments were taken out of context. But there was no context to save him. The video was crystal clear. As veteran journalist Andrew Neil put it on X, "You can't unring that bell." Starmer just declared war on the monarchy on live television, and now he's pretending it didn't happen. Pathetic. That post exploded, over 127,000 likes in just 3 hours. While the political class was debating this, ordinary Britons were furious. The sight of people who've watched their communities crumble under Labour's promises was finally seeing the truth. Take James Harrison, for example, a 64-year-old Royal Navy veteran from Portsmouth. He served 22 years defending Britain, fought in the Falklands, came home with medals on his chest and shrapnel still near his spine. Today, he resides in a council flat infested with black mold, walls damp and crumbling, while local Labour authorities claim there's no funding for repairs. His granddaughter now suffers from chronic asthma due to the same conditions. James applied for housing assistance 11 months ago, and he's still waiting. With tears in his eyes, he said to reporters, "I bled for this country, and now I can't even get a safe place to live," while they talk about seizing royal land for politics. That interview went instantly viral. And the contrast couldn't be starker. While veterans like James suffer, Starmer and his ministers enjoy taxpayer-funded luxury apartments complete with 24-hour security, private cleaners, and full maintenance teams. And the Prime Minister himself resides in a Downing Street flat, which underwent £30,000 in renovations last year, all paid by the public. The hypocrisy was so glaring, so morally grotesque, that even lifelong Labour voters began to turn. A YouGov poll released yesterday showed the damage. 68% of Britons said Starmer's attack on Prince William was inappropriate. That number soared to 79% among voters over 50. This wasn't just bad optics, it was a political death spiral unfolding in real time. And then came the real nightmare for Labour. Internal focus groups in Birmingham, Liverpool, and Glasgow revealed a collapse that no one in the party expected. It was the working-class people, their most loyal supporters, who were turning against them, all because of this royal clash. As one focus group participant, Colin Davies, a 58-year-old former steelworker, said, "I voted Labour my whole life. My dad voted Labour. My granddad voted Labour. But I won't vote for a party that disrespects the crown. That's not what Labour used to be." His sentiments were shared by 19 out of 22 participants in the same session. Inside Labour HQ, the mood was reportedly apocalyptic. The party that once represented ordinary working Britons was now being seen as attacking the very institutions those Britons hold sacred. Even the trade unions, Labour's oldest allies, began to panic. According to reports, Sharon Graham, the powerful General Secretary of Unite the Union, then delivered a furious message to party leaders over the phone. "Our members respect tradition. They respect the monarchy. You are forcing us to choose between Labour and our values. And you won't like how that ends. When you've lost the unions, you've lost Labour's soul." But just when the political world thought things couldn't get any worse, something unplanned occurred. A man who almost never wades into controversy, King Charles himself, decided to act. And then apparently out of nowhere the unimaginable did. King Charles himself broke the royal silence with an act so deliberate, so calculated, that it has left constitutional experts across Britain utterly speechless. During a private reception for ambassadors of the Commonwealth at Buckingham Palace yesterday afternoon, the king did something nobody had ever seen in his 75-year history. In front of an audience of over 200 guests and whirring cameras, Charles embraced Prince William, both hands tightly on his son's shoulders, and whispered in his ear for almost 30 seconds. When lip readers at the palace later analyzed the footage, Their findings sent shockwaves through Westminster. The king then said to his son, according to their report, "You spoke for Britain. Never apologize for defending what matters." The symbolism was nuclear. The monarch wasn't just showing affection, he was sending a message. The King of the United Kingdom had just publicly supported his son's political stance. Royal protocol demands strict neutrality, but Charles had just shattered that golden rule. And to dispel any doubt, Buckingham Palace issued a statement at 4:47 p.m., just 2 sentences, but they came with the force of thunder. These remarks by the Prince of Wales on heritage conservation stem from deep-seated values that are shared with successive generations in the royal family. They merit consideration from all quarters seriously. Read between the lines, and it was as clear as crystal. My son was right, and Parliament must listen. Constitutional scholars were shocked. Professor Michael Jennings of Cambridge University referred to it as the most direct royal intervention in government policy since the 1936 abdication crisis. The optics were disastrous for Starmer. He was no longer battling just Prince William. He was now up against the entire monarchy, and the British public was left in utter shock. And the fallout was immediate. Financial markets reacted like a thunderclap. In the hours following Starmer's Commons outburst, the pound plummeted 1.2% against the dollar, wiping out £18 billion in market value. Investment firms cited constitutional instability as global investors began to flee from UK assets. The FTSE 100 fell by 89 points, and property developers, the very ones that were supposed to benefit from Labour's housing plan, saw their stocks collapse amid mounting legal challenges. Economists warned that Starmer's war with the monarchy had created exactly the kind of instability that drives capital out of Britain. And politically, the fractures began almost instantly. Within 24 hours, 3 Labour MPs went public to question the judgment of the Prime Minister. Rosie Duffield, long a thorn in Starmer's side, tweeted bluntly, "Picking fights with the future king isn't a housing strategy. It's madness." 2 northern backbenchers have told the BBC they'd been flooded with hundreds of furious emails from constituents defending Prince William. Meanwhile, social media went into overdrive. The hashtag #StandWithWilliam got 4.3 million posts within 36 hours. TikTok was flooded with videos of the very demographic Labour relies on young Britons rallying behind the prince. One viral clip featured a 23-year-old Londoner saying, "I'm not even a royalist, but Starmer went way too far." It reached 8 million views in one day. And then the death blow came. Starmer resign trended for 14 straight hours across the UK. Next came the street protests. Outside Manchester's town hall, a crowd of over 2,000 gathered with banners that read, "Respect our heritage. William speaks for Britain." Similar protests erupted in Birmingham, Leeds, and Bristol, not organized by parties or unions, but by ordinary citizens who felt Starmer had crossed a sacred line. Labour's worst nightmare was now a reality. They weren't just losing votes, they were losing the culture war to the monarchy itself. Inside 10 Downing Street, the atmosphere descended into total chaos. Cabinet meetings turned volcanic. Ministers shouted. Accusations flew. Insiders said the left-wing leader was confronted by Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner and Chancellor Rachel Reeves in a heated emergency meeting. 2 officials who were in attendance described the scene as explosive. Rayner reportedly snapped, "You've given Reform UK a loaded gun, and you're standing right in front of the target." Reeves was even harsher, reportedly slamming her notebook down and saying, "The polling is catastrophic, Keir. You've started a war we can't win." Inside Downing Street, panic was turning into open rebellion. "We're losing pensioners. We're losing veterans. We're losing Middle England." One minister is reported to have snapped during the crisis meeting. "This housing plan isn't worth destroying the entire party over." Visibly incensed, Starmer shouted back, his voice echoing through the cabinet room. "I won't be bullied by a family that contributes nothing." According to sources present during the crisis, the Prime Minister looked unrecognizable, tense, paranoid, and convinced that palace advisors were orchestrating a coordinated effort to bring him down. Behind the scenes, Labour MPs were in full-scale panic mode. Private WhatsApp groups, some named Save Our Party and Post-Starmer Planning, were buzzing with frantic activity. More than 40 MPs were now openly considering possible leadership challenges. The names doing the rounds included Angela Rayner, Yvette Cooper, and Wes Streeting, and the plotters weren't even bothering to keep it under wraps anymore. Yesterday, 5 senior MPs were spotted having lunch together at a Westminster restaurant, and political journalists immediately dubbed it the cabal meeting. Meanwhile, shadow cabinet members began canceling television appearances, refusing to defend Starmer's comments. And in politics, when your own team won't stand beside you, your clock is already ticking. Leaks from party headquarters made things even worse. Internal polling showed Labour's support collapsing across 47 constituencies, including 12 marginal seats they'd only just taken from the Conservatives. To many insiders, the question wasn't if the party would move against Starmer, but whether he'd still be Prime Minister by next week. But then came the bombshell revelation, the one capable of bringing down the entire government. Leaked documents, published by The Telegraph, exposed what Starmer's team had desperately tried to bury. 3 weeks before the housing plan was unveiled, officials from the Department for Levelling Up had already met with Crown Estate representatives to discuss land owned by the Duchy of Cornwall. And the minutes of the meeting were damning. Royal officials had explicitly warned that seizure of heritage land without consultation would mean a constitutional crisis. They even offered alternatives: joint development projects, long-term leases, and collaborative planning models. But it rejected every single proposal. Then came the smoking gun, an email from a senior Downing Street advisor to Housing Secretary Michael Gove, stating, "The political benefit of showing we're not afraid to challenge royal privilege outweighs the diplomatic concerns. PM wants to proceed regardless. If authentic, and multiple sources have confirmed it is, this means Starmer didn't stumble into the crisis. He did so deliberately, as a calculated political gamble."
Think about that.
He deliberately brought about a constitutional confrontation with the monarchy, one that risked Britain's stability, the pound, and international confidence for the sake of a few bold headlines and the opportunity to appear tough. It confirms everything his critics have accused him of, if proven to be true: that he's careless, ideologically blinded, and willing to burn down the country's institutions for political gain. And the nightmare wasn't over yet. Whitehall sources said the full email chain is likely to leak soon, and if that happens, Starmer won't just lose his job. He'll lose his legacy. But then came the most devastating twist of all. Among the leaked emails was one from Sue Gray, Starmer's chief of staff, and the same woman who helped bring down Boris Johnson. Her message, dated 3 weeks ago, was clear and dire in its warning. Picking a fight with Kensington Palace serves no policy objective and creates massive political risk. We should pursue collaborative solutions. Her advice? Ignored entirely. For decades, Sue Gray has been one of the most seasoned operators in Westminster, a strategist who understands the machinery of power better than any other. She perceived oncoming disaster and strove to prevent it. But Starmer overruled her. And now she's vanished. All week during the crisis, Sue Gray has been absent from Downing Street. She skipped the cabinet meeting. She didn't attend a single emergency strategy session. While multiple sources confirm she's been working from home, the whisper from insiders is that she's considering resignation. And everyone in Westminster knows the truth. If Sue Gray walks away, it's over. She's not just a staffer. She is the architect of Starmer's entire operation. If she abandons ship, the Prime Minister has no one left to steer it. Sue Gray had been the one to keep the machine running, the silent force that turns chaos into control. Without her, Starmer stands politically naked. And the symbolism would be devastating. Imagine it. The same woman who ended Boris Johnson's career walking away from Starmer because he wouldn't listen to her warnings. The media would go into overdrive. Front-page headlines, late-night talk shows, endless analysis, all hammering the same question. If Sue Gray won't work with Keir Starmer, why should Britain trust him? That revelation alone will shatter his last line of defense. For weeks, Starmer has insisted he acted on expert advice. But now it's clear he didn't. Well, He followed his own political instincts, and they've led him straight off a cliff. Meanwhile, a familiar figure is seizing the moment. Nigel Farage has stepped onto the stage, not as some kind of protester, but as a patriot with a purpose. While Starmer wages war with a future king and Labour tears itself apart, Farage has been touring working-class towns across Britain with a message as old as the Union Jack itself. They've forgotten who they're supposed to serve. Yesterday, in Stoke-on-Trent, in front of a sea of red, white, and blue flags, Farage gave what analysts are calling his most powerful speech in years. And with calm conviction, he declared, "Prince William said what millions of you are thinking, that our heritage matters, our traditions matter, and Britain is more than just a building site for politicians' vanity projects." There was no anger, no shouting. Just steady patriotic defiance. The crowd erupted. Videos of the speech received more than 3 million views across platforms within 12 hours. Membership of Reform UK surged by 60,000 new members in 1 week, and donations doubled overnight. For the first time in modern polling history, Reform UK has overtaken Labour in 3 constituencies: Clacton, Ashfield, and Boston and Skegness. The numbers tell an extraordinary story. Conservatives steady at 33%. Labour collapsed to 27%. Reform UK surging to 22%. Britain now faces a 3-way political deadlock not seen since the 1920s. And here's the truth Westminster doesn't want to admit. Farage isn't just a protest candidate anymore. He is becoming a real contender for power. With each passing day, Starmer seems weaker, more isolated, and Farage seems more and more like Britain's future. And what's truly shocking? Labour's own strategists are watching in disbelief as Farage wins over demographics once thought impossible. A recent opinion poll put support for Reform UK among voters aged 55 to 64, an age group that overwhelmingly backed Labour just 6 months ago, at 31%. These are the very people who remember when Labour stood for working people, national pride, and respect for institutions. Now, they see Starmer attacking the monarchy, shaking the very foundations of tradition, and they're saying, loud and clear, enough is enough. Even more surprisingly, 18% of women over 60 now support Farage, a group that once viewed him with great suspicion. His message of defending veterans and preserving Britain's heritage is cutting deep. As Patricia Williams, a 62-year-old retired nurse, explained in one Newcastle focus group, "I never thought I'd even consider voting for Nigel Farage. But he's standing up for the values I believe in while Labour attacks them. What choice do I have?" That sentiment is catching on like wildfire. Farage has successfully rebranded himself from divisive provocateur into defender of British tradition. And Starmer, through arrogance and miscalculation, handed him that transformation on a silver platter. Even the Conservatives are panicking now, because they know that Reform UK is not just siphoning off Labour voters, it's building a broad populist coalition that could permanently reshape British politics. The stakes couldn't be higher. The next 72 hours will determine Britain's political future. Tomorrow, Prince William will attend the state opening of Parliament, seated directly across from Starmer during the King's speech. He has been confirmed to attend by palace insiders. The visual contrast will be devastating. Royal dignity versus political desperation. Then, on Friday, Labour's National Executive Committee will meet in emergency session, the first time Starmer's leadership will be subject to formal scrutiny since he entered office. For Starmer, it's straightforward. Survive the week or lose everything. Over the weekend, 3 of Britain's biggest newspapers are reportedly preparing explosive exposés on the leaked housing plan documents, each one containing new, even more damaging revelations. At this stage, the question isn't whether Keir Starmer will survive. It's how much damage he'll inflict on the Labour Party before he finally falls. What the nation is witnessing now is nothing less than a government collapsing in real time. A slow-motion implosion which will be studied in political science courses for decades to come, a textbook example of how a leader can destroy himself by attacking the very institution his people still revere. And at the center of it all is Keir Starmer, isolated, cornered, and visibly unraveling. He looks more desperate and more finished with each passing hour. History will remember this week as the moment a prime minister forgot one timeless truth. You can challenge many things in Britain, but you can't win a war against the crown. So now the question every Briton is asking is simple. Does Starmer resign before he's forced out, or does Labour tear itself apart to remove him? Did Prince William's 11 words end a prime minister's career? Or did Starmer's own arrogance do it for him? And beyond that, could this chaos be leading Britain toward a snap election, one that catapults Nigel Farage into a coalition government? What do you think? Will Starmer survive the week, or is his downfall already sealed? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this constitutional crisis has shocked you as much as it has shocked us, share this video with everyone who deserves to know what's really happening inside Westminster right now. Because while the mainstream media tries to bury the story, we're here to give you the unfiltered truth, directly and without spin. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because tomorrow we're breaking down the leaked emails proving that Starmer planned this confrontation from the start. The next chapter could change Britain forever. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.